Hello and welcome. It's me, Percita, and this is Percita's Paradox. Thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate you and your time and finding me on this thing called YouTube. If you're new to this channel, thank you so much for coming on to see me today. And if you are an OG, you know the drill. As always, thank you so much for joining me. So, if you can be so kind as to just already go ahead and like, share, comment, hit the, join us button, create a button, do whatever you can. Because today I think we're going to talk about something that we should all really discuss. It's something that we fight with as individuals, but it's something that I think we should really just take the time to use our good senses, right? And really come up with a better solution for it. And that thing is called anxiety. So get on in here. Let's definitely talk about it today. The question of the day is, can anxiety be cured? And you may say, well, when you say cured, Percita, like what exactly do you mean? I mean, typically we have this idea of trying to come up with an angle, right? Or a spiel, a process, some type of steps, whatever it would take to stop having anxiety. The problem with that is because we have, for the most part, chatter monkey brain. What that basically means is that your thoughts precede your actions, in the sense of everything you want to do before you even think about it, you're thinking about it. So you're continuously in this place of really trying to figure out what your next step should be. And if you're definitely, at an age where you've experienced some things, you'll notice that you do it a lot more often than you want to. What I'm starting to understand is the idea of curing anxiety or to cure anxiety is something that we almost mess ourselves up with, because we actually try to cure anxiety with anxiety. The idea that you can cure it then brings on a whole nother bag of worms, a whole nother angle to really stress people out even more than the idea of thinking that they just naturally have anxiety. And you might say, well, what do you mean by natural? Well, again, post-traumatic stress, meaning anything that you have experienced across the board. We talk about a lot in the military, but truthfully, it's just across the board. Anytime you have experienced anything that has given you any sense of trauma or any sense of fear is going to bring forth some sense of anxiety. A lot of us, especially once we've been in relationships, meaning beyond mother-father relationships, something that's more than just platonic, really romantic, we have an idea of what hurt starts to feel like, and heartbreak and things like that. And we start to really figure out, do we want to rationalize it, or do we want to really bring forth a reason for it, right? So with that being said, it kind of puts us in this angle of like, how do you really get to a place where you can cure this thing called anxiety? I'm not necessarily going to lean on the idea that it can be cured, but I will say that I feel like there are some steps that we can talk about today that will help balance the process. And what I mean by that is that I think that this is just something that we all are going to have to understand, that in this world that we live in, and with the uncertainties of what life brings in itself, outside of anything environmental or any type of behavioral issue that we may have, theoretically, we're going to always be under some sense of stress and under some sense of anxiety. So we want to really talk about the idea of balancing more so than the idea of curing. So moving forward, the first thing that we want to talk about is really, once we start to feel anxiety, what do we do? And the first thing that I hope that you try to do is that you try to just stop. And I do mean stop in your tracks. Stop if you're in the position of about to say something or do something, just literally stop. And the reason why you want to stop is you want to actually give yourself the opportunity to just really be still. Anxiety has a lot to do with movement. It has a lot to do with people who can't sleep and people who are continuously, on even like a caffeine high or a weed high or something of the sort. It's like you just continuously want to have an out-of-body experience to really handle what life is, right? The problem with that is that you really have a misjudgment of how things should be if you use that as your only mechanism to be able to cope. Nothing wrong for people who smoke marijuana. There are plenty of people in my life who do. I'm not one of them, but I do understand the process, right? I don't knock it. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I just simply have a phobia about smoking. I wish I didn't sometimes, because I would love to be able to relax in that sense and have that body and mental high. But because of just a phobia I have about smoking, I just am not into it. But I do like to indulge in a cocktail. I do like to indulge in other things that would then like give me that sense of body high, right? The difference is, and not in regards to the smoking and the drinking, the difference in what I'm saying for what we really have to learn how to stop is that even that is usually some type of a tool that we're using to stop. And I'm trying to make sure that you understand that when I say stop, I mean to actually stop and be within yourself for 2 seconds and really remember why you're there. So you really want to stop, right? And then number 2, you really want to remember what is bringing forth the anxiety. And you might say, well, what do you mean by remember? Because sometimes you think it's a new anxiety and it's actually the exact same anxiety you've always had with a new outfit on, right? With a new hairdo, meaning it's the exact same thing. Typically, negativity, or what we now call in society triggers, all happen in a manner of the exact same thing. They may be manifested through different people, but if you catch what a trigger is, it would still remain the exact same thing with just another person's spin on it or another person's perspective. So you want to remember what's giving you this anxiety. Once you then can put those two things together and you remember it, then you want to identify it. And by simply identifying what it is, specifically stop doing whatever that is. That if that's a trigger, if that's a person, if that's a job, whatever that is, you want to stop. Now, I know you're going to say, but I thought you said that you can't really cure it, right? You have to learn to balance. You do. But typically anxiety comes from within, right? Meaning you're in control of the way that you respond, not what people do, but in the way that you respond. That is your control. So what I mean by stopping and getting away from it is for you to stop whatever you're feeling about it and for you to get away from it. If you can physically, that's always going to be a great thing to do, to be able to get up and actually walk away, excuse yourself, politely, hopefully, and move on for a second. But if you cannot, you really want to take yourself into a mental space where you remove yourself from whatever that thing is or that person is or that situation is that's giving you anxiety. Outside of that, you really want to get to a place where you go into your next phase. And your next phase is really coming with a better day-to-day plan on how to get in front of whatever that is. Meaning how to identify ways to not try to bring more anxiety into your life by not preparing for anxiety in your life. And you may say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, if you know that you have an issue and you get really anxious when it comes to being late, then you're going to have to get up early and you're going to have to make sure that you're out the door properly. If you know that you like to have things super duper perfect and you're super organized, then you want to come up with a system that doesn't give you anxiety as you're trying to structurally put things together, because it's asinine. You're putting yourself in a position where you're trying to balance and cure something by using the exact same formula that you would use in regards to doing whatever that something is. So you want to come up with an idea that can actually balance you in how you need to move. Your mind, your body, your spirit, you want to do that. For me, if you're not paid attention, I'm sitting here today in my lovely lounge wear because for me, when I know that I am overdoing it, I'm overworking, I'm over filming, I'm over socializing, I'm over whatever the over is, I stop. Absolutely stop. And I'm thankful that I'm in a place in my life that I can do that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to go and quit your job or to, floss what I'm doing. I am very much so in a phase of telling you that I have definitely earned and deserved whatever I'm getting. Not that I need to say that to you, but just for the people who may be new here. Therefore, I am going to take a break. So when I take a break, I've come up with ideas and structure in my life that just allows me to bring something in to maybe relax me. So I have a masseuse come to my home. I've built a relationship with one over the years. I've worked in fitness and health for over 20 years. Therefore, I have some perks that I could use, right? And I bring that into my space and really just decompress myself, because decompression for me is the tool that I use to balance my anxiety, because I am one of those people. I'm a Virgo, for the astrological people who, group us in our special little place, and I'm an overthinker, and I'm going to do all of those cool things. Here's the problem. I try not to actually identify that. I try not to actually be all the things that I'm being told astrologically that I'm supposed to be based on my sign, right? So I want to then put myself in a place where I can do things that are going to allow me to just relax. Just relax. And it has been an uphill battle. And I would tell you, because even I go to a therapist, like a therapist needs a therapist, if you didn't know. And even in that, my therapist has told me that the problem with me is that I just can't always understand. It's not going to be the way I think it to be. And that gives me anxiety, meaning I want people to be me. I want people to respond the way I would respond. And when you start to understand that that's really not it, then you start to understand that you're really driving yourself crazy and you're creating anxiety by trying to be something that you're not. So since I know that that's not it, then I just decompress. And I pull myself out of whatever it is, and I stop and really assess what it is that's driving me into this anxiety. And then I rearrange and balance whatever my emotion is. And there we go. That thing for me then is to decompress. And decompression, for me, I usually try to take 24 to 48 hours to do it. And that might mean that I'm taking meetings, but they're light meetings. Or it may mean that I'm not going to travel, meaning by plane, because I travel by plane throughout the week. It may mean that I'm not going to cook dinner. It may mean that I'm not going to get up and maybe shoot social media content. It's a plethora of things, but those are all things that actually give me anxiety. As funny as that sounds, they give you pleasure, but they give you anxiety. I mean, waiting for this YouTube to upload is a stress. Trying to make sure that people really like what you do is a stress. So we could sit and pretend like it isn't, but because that's just not who I am, I'm going to say that even in doing this video, I'm telling myself that I love what I do and this is so great, but so many people before me and to come have lost themselves in the anxiety of what social media brings. So there's this balance that most people don't want to give themselves because they're worried that if they stop, that either someone will surpass them, or they'll not be so popular, or the algorithm will kill them off. And you can see where I'm going with this. It's just all anxiety. And with that being said, you can see why I'm saying the decompression is so important. Now, keep in mind what I said for decompression for me are just those attributes that are for me. You have to figure it out for yourself with your lifestyle, your financial scenario, your situation across the board. What can it warrant? Everybody has something. I'm a strong believer in you literally afford what you want and you beg for what you afford what you want and you beg for what you need. Okay? You afford what you want, you beg for what you need. Meaning, if it's somewhere you want to go, if it's something you want to do, something you want to buy, outfit, purse, car, whatever, you will make a way. But if it's something for yourself, then we kind of make this idea of I don't have time and I'm just so busy, blah, blah, blah. It's all BS. If you're not smart about anything else, do not put tangible things in front of your mental health. Do not do that. It is not worth it. It is not going to behoove you in the end. Put yourself mentally first, because the way that you think about you is more important than anything you'll ever have. We so busily want people to externally validate us that we forget that the validation, the anxiety that we're talking about comes from within. Most people don't really even know people and their anxieties when they're going through anxieties, because no one wants to expose their anxieties. So now you have anxiety about the exposure of your anxiety. You kind of see where I'm going with that? So with everything that I'm saying, you just want to understand you can't cure anxiety with anxiety. You can't continue to pretend like things aren't happening in order to try to create some sense of balance. You have to find the balance. You have to be real with yourself. You have to create the structure. You have to create the limits. You have to create different characteristics about yourself that can combat that anxiety feeling. And then some of those anxieties you just have to remove. No matter what it is, you actually have to take the time to do that. So I say all that to say, sitting here in my lounge where then I'm decompressing today, and I am doing what I need to do to keep myself in that space of happiness. I am going to kick my feet up. I'm going to probably read a book, and I'm going to actually probably go to bed early. That sounds fantastic for me. I'm going to shut my phone off early. If you know me personally, I'm always off my phone by 8 o'clock at night. It's just what it is because I'm up super early and there's nothing about me that wants to keep talking on the phone. And because I do what I do in my profession, because I do work, it still causes me to just say enough is enough, right? So that's my structure. I'm hoping and praying that everyone who's listening to my voice creates a structure for themselves, a balance for themselves, a process for themselves that they can really walk through and do better with their anxiety. Because trust me, no one wants to have anxiety, nor do I believe that even the meanest person in the world wants people to have anxiety. It is something that society has actually just birthed. And now that we've given it a name, it's just manifested into things and places and people that it shouldn't. So if you have listened to me thus far, I greatly appreciate you, your time, and of course your effort. Do so kind as to, if you've been this far, right, to like, share, and comment if you choose. Do make sure that you watch all the videos. Do make sure that you try to watch the videos to the end. And as always, I thank you so much for your support. But before you can do any of the things that I asked you to do, I need you to do the 3 major things that we focus on this channel. And that is live life authentic. Thank you as always. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you soon. Oh, and if I do not speak to you, happy Easter and anything else that's happening this weekend. That's the only holiday that I know. So if I missed your holiday, I apologize, but happy Easter. Bye-bye.